Super Mario Bros. Is a great, awesome game, and a happy 30th anniversary again to them. But some of the coolest games in the series are actually Mario spin-offs. So let's get into the whole run of basically Mario's entire career thus far. Of course, a lot of him know him as Dr. Mario. This was a puzzle game similar to Tetris, where Mario was a doctor, I guess, and he threw pills at these monsters in order to cure things. It's a very just simplistic game, but people love it, and my sister, I remember playing that a lot as a kid. Me, not so much. I'm not really into the puzzle games. There's actually a few other puzzle games that maybe a lot of people aren't as familiar with. There's one specifically only in Japan called Mario and Wario. Now, this game was for their downloadable service, and you basically play Mario, you're trying to get to the goal of Luigi, and you're playing this fairy, and you're just trying to guide him along. It's kind of how the Revenge of the Minis of the Donkey Kong series kind of work nowadays. Then there was a Picross version of Mario, and that was fine. And of course, again, the minis, you're just trying to get to these goals, and you know, puzzle games are puzzle games. Again, not my thing really, but you know, he's done it. I think the first spin-off that I was addicted to was Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo, and the series beyond that has just become more and more awesome. Specifically, the one right here, Super Mario Kart 8. Holy cow! I love the Super Nintendo one. I've tried all the other ones, but never really got into them as much. But Super Mario Kart 8 is just a gorgeous game for the Wii U. So awesome, so much fun. The battle courses aren't as good. I don't think anything really tops the Super Nintendo version. But you can race as your Mii, you got all these characters, it just looks gorgeous, all these customizations to your carts, so good. So this is a series that has improved throughout time, and I think they could use a little bit more tweaks. It's kind of small in between the games, but you know, they're trying. Technically, let's call Mario Kart a sport, and it was the beginning of a huge blowout for Mario to be in all these random different kinds of sports. Of course, there's been Mario Golf, Mario Tennis. He's joined up with Sonic to be in the Olympics. There was a sports mix where he was playing all kinds of random games like volleyball and hockey, and they're okay. The ones that I like the best, just because they're kind of RPGs and kind of just chill, are the Mario Golf games. I played the 3DS one most recently, World Tour I believe, and that's a pretty good game if you like very simplistic golf games with, you know, Mario characters in them. Otherwise, I can kind of take it or leave it for these games. It's kind of like a collection of random, easy, wacky sports hijinks, and they're fine. They're not great, but they're, you know, they're fine. They're not as bad as the actual minigame collections. I'm looking at you, Mario Party, with your board game style and your BS random mini games. Well, okay, so some of the mini games can be kind of fun in Mario Party, but it's just, God, it takes so long. It's just like Monopoly. I just want to break something. He was also part of this long-running franchise called Fortune Street, which started like way back on the NES. But the first one to come over here, they just called Fortune Street, and it was basically a collection of Mario characters and Dragon Quest characters. That is a huge crossover. That is so weird for a very simple but kind of addicting game, but it just takes so long. One of the weirder ones, Konami helped make a spin-off for their DDR series, and it's called Mario Mix, and you can go on quests to basically go and do stuff. You can play as Luigi, you play mini games, but you know, you dance off against your worst half, which is Waluigi, and some other stuff happening. It's just super crazy. I still can't believe it exists, or I do believe that there hasn't been a sequel, of course. I think Mario Pinball Land is kind of minigame-ish. I wouldn't call it a sport, so let's put it in the minigame category. Again, I'd like to see a return to this, because Nintendo actually makes some pretty good spin-offs for pinball games. For the Game Boy Advance, though, it looks really bad. It's a really bad-looking Game Boy Advance game. But they should definitely make another one, for sure. And these ones I want to skip past very, very quickly. There was a whole series of terrible educational games for the Super Nintendo. Just the graphics-wise, they were just so bad and just weird. They look like they're made by children in some sweatshop. I mean, seriously, they're terrible. There's Mario's Time Machine. There's Mario Was Missing. There's these preschool games where you're trying to learn, and I guess that's cool. And then Mario Paint, I guess, technically is kind of educational. You're learning to paint. That's the only one really good one out of all of them. But man, these just seem like ripped off pirate games, and they were actually sanctioned by Nintendo. They weren't made specifically by Nintendo, but still they're sanctioned by them, so shame on them. They have learned their lesson, which is why we don't get a lot of collaboration so much with some of their properties. They're very guarded, but now they're kind of opening up again. They kind of go in phases. But my favorite Mario spin-offs of all time is, of course, the RPG series, because I am a RPG fanatic. I remember renting Super Mario RPG for the first time and just being blown away like, wow, these graphics look amazing on the Super Nintendo. The PlayStation was out, I believe, by this time, or at least the 64 was, or at least it was known that these things were coming out. And I think they look great. I think they don't hold up nowadays in terms of graphics, but the story and the gameplay and all that stuff is still awesome in Super Mario RPG. Spun off from that was the sequel of Paper Mario, which had the Paper Mario RPG series. And then spun off from that is the Mario and Luigi series. And that is the current. Basically, they go in between Paper Mario and Mario Luigi. And the next one's coming out is actually a cross between the Mario Luigi saga and the Paper Mario saga. But man, I just want a sequel to the Square Enix collaborated Super Mario RPG. I want a turn-based style with Geno. I want the return of Geno and Mal and all those awesome guys. God, I can't wait for the future of that happening. But yeah, so that's all of the spin-offs for Mario. Give or take a few I may have missed in there, but yeah, Mario's a lot of spin-offs. Of course, there's some room for improvement. He could have an RTS. Imagine having control of a bunch of Toads, or Princess Peach, and I've kind of gone over this with Shay in another video and called Fixing Nintendo. But he could have a tactical RPG, he could do some kind of weird shooter, but not a shooter, because he kind of did that with the Water Backpack, I suppose. But there's so many other genres out there that he could be a part of, and it'd be nice for Nintendo to see him spread out. Again, don't want anything violent, I don't want any kind of Mario, Sonic, or Shadow the Hedgehog kind of action, because that would be really, really dumb. A very bad move. But, yeah, I guess keep on innovating, Nintendo.